Namaste. Though it is named as study session, I would rather aspire that it becomes like a collective yagna, which is what it is. So we all bring our heart's aspiration at the altar of the Divine Mother. And this being a very special year because this coinciding of Sri Aurobindo's 158th birth anniversary and the 75th anniversary of India's independence. So we all bring our aspirations, offer it at the altar of the Divine Mother, so that India and the world may progress towards their true destiny. And it is here that there lies the importance of India. India is not just a nation which has somehow formed, another country which has formed like so many other countries. If you look at the way India is formed geographically, just geographically, all else comes later. So we'll see that way back, if we go back into that state when there was only one landmass surrounded by water. And as it is said that there will be a time when again there will be only one landmass. It's a very fascinating thing. And then these land masses started breaking into 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces, 5 pieces. And then there was a lot of shuffle. Lot of tremendous forces were at play. Just imagine moving continents. If somebody had to put a Puranic picture, we would say that Rudra was active upon, in this world, pushing the land masses. You read this story of Hiranyaksh taking earth and drowning it underwater. So there was a lot of shuffling and reshuffling going on. And during that time, we see that there is a little entity which breaks free a piece of land, as it would seem, from one side and goes to the other side, northern side, and joins there. So this drifting piece of land, which we know today as India, if you look at it, the way it is formed, and it comes and joins, and as it joins, the Himalayas begin to rise, and they are still rising. It's not that they have finished their journey upward. And so when we look at this whole world from a panoramic point of view, and look at India, you will see that India looks like, and even the way the whole world is formed, it is the heart of the world. That is the importance of India. Even if you look at the structure, the way India is made, it represents the soul of the world. And that is why there is a very special task which has been given to India. Each country has been given a task. And India has been given the task of tasks, if you may say so. And it is to conduct or be the leader of a grand experiment which is going on planet Earth since Earth began, since creation began. So one way to look at Earth is that it is a grand laboratory of the divine. So what is happening in this laboratory? Mud, out of mud, plants, trees, simple animals, complex animals, human beings come, and human beings aspire for something still greater, higher. So this experiment is not yet finished. It is still going on. And in this experiment, India has always played, and has to play a very crucial and critical role. And that is the importance of India. Someone has very beautifully said that if India survives, the world survives. And if this may seem like just a patriotic sentiment and just an exaggeration, just look at the factual state of affairs. So today, what are the major civilizations that we see all around? Culturally oriented civilizations. We have, of course, the immediate past, the Western civilization, which had almost, as it used to be said, ki the sun never sets on the British Empire. Now people are wondering when the sun will rise on the British Empire. It has shrunk into a small little piece. See, those who don't believe in the law of karma can. So, but that apart, look at what has happened. Just immediately before, there was a Western civilization, and there was a myth that it is the best civilization, and there were many Indians who were hypnotized, and this they believed and still believe, unfortunately. See, all that you need to impress people in India still is not a degree, not a, you must know how to speak English, maybe with a little accent, and then you are through. It required just a little bit of conversation to realize that, that the person doesn't understand anything. There is hollowness inside. And yet there was this impression which was created, a very strong impression. And you see, people who had followed that impression, they were great thinkers in India. I won't take the names. But they believed really in the superiority of the Western civilization. And among them one of them was, of course, Sri Aurobindo's father, Krishnadan Ghosh, a very capable doctor, very generous to a default. And he felt that, well, this is not the country where my little Oro should study and grow up. He should go to the West and learn the best from the West and then come back. He had this great aspiration for his son. On the other side, there was the hub of Western civilization at one point of time. That was France. And there also, a little girl was born, and whose mother aspired, my daughter should be the best, my children should be the bestest of the best. This was her aspiration. So, Sri Aurobindo travels all the way, 7 years of age. He came to UK, he studied, we know he did very well, all this is well known, too well known. But when he comes back, what does he write? There are a series of letters of Sri Aurobindo, which are not really letters written to someone, but they are letters where he has written to his other self. And he writes there, they are like people write anonymous letters. So it is epistles from abroad. And there Sri Aurobindo says that how much ever you may try to convince me that there is so much glamour and glitter in the West, I can see that the whole civilization is very hollow. It is like a termite, white ants which are eating it up. There was nothing much, though it could build a huge empire, a vast empire. And yet, it was at its bottom hollow. And why was it at its bottom hollow? Literally the bottom, because its foundation was very weak. Entire Western world, if you look at it, it is based around what is called in India as De Atma Bodh. The body is the self. That story of Virochan and from the Indian myth, Virochan and Indra. So both go to Brahma and they ask, tell us about the self. So Brahma says, well, very simple. You look into my eyes and see what you see the self. Now you see, it's a very interesting story. So both look into the eyes and they both go back satisfied because they see their own reflection. And they say, this body is the self. So Virochan, as we know, is the progenitor of all the Asuric clans. And Indra says that, not the Puranic Indra of, later on, who is portrayed in various ways, but we'll come to that later. But Indra says, but I have heard that the self is stable. Stable, it's not something changing, but my body is changing all the time. So he goes back again. And Brahma tells him the same thing, this is something similar to the story of Varuni and Brigu, but on a different note. So he once again goes and he says, look deeper and you see. And then he sees this entire vital world and subtle worlds. And then he says, okay, that is the self. But that is also changing. So several times he contemplates and he looks for, ultimately he discovers that stable basis of creation. So you see, when it is said foundation, when it is said hollow, what is the basis on which you erect a whole superstructure? So I often give this example, some of us may have seen, and Sri Aurobindo uses this in Savitri, termite city is guarded against the sun. See, ever seen a termite city, white ants, they build such lovely skyscrapers. But all that you need is, they're the least welcome creatures. So there was this myth that because there is so much glitter and glamour, this is the civilization which we all must follow. When Swami Vivekananda goes and comes back from the West, we can, now of course India is rising, shining, and it's a different story. But look at that time. So he was asked by people that, you always used to say so many good things about India. Now that you have gone and seen the West, what do you have to say? Thinking that Swamiji will change his views. And here was Swami Vivekananda saying that India was always dear to my heart. But now that I have seen the West, the very dust of India is sacred to me. It's an experience that one has to have. I can recount on very personal note my first travel to the West, to America, and after 6 days, my host asked me, "So how are you feeling, Alokda?" So I said, "You ask a frank opinion. I'm feeling terribly homesick." And they felt that probably I'm missing the Indian food, because India is, among many things, food is, of course, everything in India is so wonderful. We'll talk about that. But, food, you ever go to a house and, you are greeted with such lovely, it's not like my other encounter is going to the Western world. Okay, you have come, you ring the doorbell and, okay, fine, there is bread in the fridge, please fix it up. When you wake up in the morning, it's so high. Because you are used to a different kind of hospitality. Of course, Indians are different, but the sudden context. So when I was coming, so they took me to a Udupi restaurant. So in Udupi restaurant, you had nice South Indian food. Everybody was Indian, and there was nice noise level was little high. So I'll feel very nice. Bathroom was a little dirty. So like I'll feel Indian. But that's not what I was looking for. Anyways, I kept quiet. I enjoyed the food. When I was coming back, I was dozing off, and as the plane was flying from Singapore to Chennai, and I remember suddenly I woke up in between and I felt, I have entered the atmosphere of India. And that very moment, within a couple of minutes, the pilot announced, we are flying over the Andamans, literally the atmosphere of India. There is something about this place which is so unique, so amazing. Now, look at the Western civilization. It developed just about, if you few thousand years. It's not that these were the roots. The roots were there. Every civilization had a mystic beginning. Every civilization. If you really go back into the depths, they had a, very beautiful mystic beginning. You see the Druids, you see the Celtic civilization, Greco-Roman civilization, Egyptian civilization. Such wonderful mystic tendencies were there. But all over, they were as if overrun by two agencies, and one was called religion and the other was called science. And they are both trying to figure out what is this Indian civilization where religion and science coexisted and flourished together without coming in fight with each other. See, this is something very interesting. So if we really imagine also that the world will be saved by the way the West has gone, then we have now the living example of where it is likely to go. And anyway, Sri Aurobindo went there, came back, and if you look at it from the divine point of view, so we have a lovely story in Indian mythology of Kutch. Kutch goes all the way to the Asuric world to learn the secrets of the Asura. He learns Sanjeevani Vidya from Shukracharya and comes back and gives it to the Devas. So Sri Aurobindo actually went and learned and equipped himself with what are the fault lines. And if you see, he was already prepared for what is going to follow next. So when he comes and he starts a series of writings, as we know in first writings, as so even before he comes, 1891, 92, his first writings. And he starts writing about what India is and what it should be. 1893 again we see. And when his writings started getting published, first in the Hindu Prakash, so even Indians, they felt this is too much, too strong. Please moderate, tone them down. So eventually for a few months Sri Aurobindo wrote and then he left it. Now during that time, Sri Aurobindo took a voyage. We know about his voyage coming all the way from the Western to the Indian world of India. I mean, he was born an Indian, but he traveled and comes back. He took a voyage. So we are also told that when Gandhiji came from South Africa, he took a voyage. But look at the difference of the voyage. So Gandhiji went all around traveling in third class compartment to see how people live, how people, to understand the ethos of this country. Sri Aurobindo took another voyage, not the third class compartment, but into that which was beyond compartments. He dived himself into the Upanishads. In a way, he had already started. His first brush with the Upanishad was when he was in UK itself, and he had an experience of the self in the mind after reading a translation, very poor translation of the Isha Upanishad. So he dived into the Upanishads. He dived into what Indian thought was about. What is this magnificent country? Why it became a subject nation? And having dwelled deeply into the soul of India, not just by reading. Reading is the easier part, much more difficult to practice. If somebody wants to understand what does the Gita mean by samatva, what does Rishi Patanjali say, samatva yoga uchyate, what does he mean by that? Then all that one needs is to just read Sri Aurobindo's life, his Baroda days, how he would wear just a very simple cloth, lie down on the mat. And when his teacher Dinendra Kumar Roy, he came, he wanted to understand that, well, he was expecting foreign educated person. He would probably, be well suited, booted, this and other. We have so many kinds of hypnotic cobwebs inside us, Same thing. When you hear somebody not only speak in English, come down well dressed with a nice suit and nothing wrong with a suit, but it has a place to, if you are living in a cold country, wear a suit and a tie, by all means. But you are living in a warm country, tropical country like India, and if you start believing, it's still there. That's why I'm pointing, because we are still so much hypnotized. Even today, the sign of a well-dressed person is he is wearing a necktie. Though during the digital world, people used all kinds of shortcuts. They just wore a shirt and a tie. And they were quite comfortable inside. And now we have found a little, even greater shortcut, because in school when I had to wear a tie, it was one of the worst exercise for me. Every day, convent, and I used to dread wearing a tie. So I used to wonder, why don't they have a tie which you can just stick it out? Fortunately, somebody discovered that tie. But by then, I had all my practices of knotting a tie around my neck. I used to feel, my God, I feel I'm hanging myself wearing this tie. So this kind of a thought where just you are judged by your appearances, by the color, by the dress, by how smartly and fluently you can speak a foreign tongue. Just imagine. So this was the situation when Sri Aurobindo comes, and so naturally Dinendra Kumar Roy was expecting what he was expecting. But he sees somebody who is living like what later on people would call Sri Aurobindo Tyagarajan. That was his name when he was in Calcutta. What was special about Sri Aurobindo's Tyag? The special thing about Sri Aurobindo Sri Aurobindo's Tyag was that he never made much ado about being a Tyagi. Remember, in Delhi ashram, somebody had come who had, wouldn't wear clothes, wouldn't step on the ground. So those leaves had to be put on the feet for Swamiji to step. And he came and gave a talk. And at the end of the talk, I believe Chachaji Surendranath Johar made a remark. Everything is very nice, but you are too attached to your detachment. True detachment is not to be attached to any mode of life. And we see that in Sri Aurobindo. When he goes there, he is what he is. You need there a kind of dress, and he wears that. He has one coat to survive through the winters, he wears that. He has just enough money to buy a Savoy and a cup of tea, and he doesn't say, my father. See, he didn't care about me. He has always the kindest word he can speak about his father. So by his own example, he brought the Indian spirit there. He brought all the know-how of how the English mind operates. And he showed how hollow that civilization is. Now, of course, we don't need to read all that. And we can see all this barbarian Indians and the civilized Europe was hanging people by the neck for a small little speaking for the freedom of their own nation. So now we don't have to But this is important to understand that Western civilization has very little left to offer to the world. It had its place. There was a time when science had its place in a certain context where religion in Europe had become something which was, it itself, first it was persecuted, then it began persecuting. So there was a need to throw it away, and science came into the picture. In India, there was a need of contact with the West. And one reason was because India had some gifts to give and they wouldn't come. They came looking for spices and they went carrying the Bhagavad Gita. So actually, we see that while people came, Bhagavad Gita for the first time was smuggled. When all the booty was being smuggled by smugglers, they also smuggled the Bhagavad Gita, perchance. And then the world discovered what India is. Then where do we turn other than that? The Chinese civilization, again very old, ancient. Do we really seriously believe that today again the roots are gone? Chinese civilization, it's again the ancient roots are wonderful. I'm not talking of Shintoism and something still bit or Confucianism which came later on like a Buddhist way of life. But what it has become today, everything of that has gone away. The mystic tendencies have been completely overpowered by what today we call as modern mainland China. Do we really want to develop along those lines? Some people say that India should be like China, another tech giant. That would be the last thing. It would mean killing the very hope, one hope for the world. And we have the third civilization. I don't know whether I should even mention about it or not. The Mohammedan civilization that came all the way, the conquest, the plunder, the loot, the rape, call it, and it is there. And we know what it is today, and the lesser it is said, the better it is. And then, of course, we have the African civilization who had been completely, again, the same mentality, you are inferior. I have been to Africa. And there are people who are still so connected with their roots. In all these civilizations, we see something common. And that common thing was lost, but kept in India. And I'll just come to that in a moment. So in Africa, same problem. They all said that, when they were narrating their stories, when they're narrating their culture, I said, oh my God, this is so similar to what India has kept always in a memory. But today again, it's looking for its foundations and soul. So in all this turmoil, all these major world forces, which is the player who has always played the best shot? And that we see in India. If there is hope for the world, it is India because it has discovered the stable basis of creation. And not only it discovered the stable basis called Brahman, that Supreme, Parabrahman, call it by whatever names. The interesting part is that it preserved the links between the stable basis and the most outward manifestations of that. This is something fascinating. So what I mean by that is when we look at the world, we see a body of things. I mean, it's an outer body. We see material things. We see this material universe. We see all this wonderful stars in space, space itself, time. We see the sun, the moon, and then we come closer to Earth, zoom in, and we see mountains and rivers. And all this we see as the material universe, our own body. And we wonder, what is this? So what does Indian civilization has to say about it? It says it is the body of the Lord, Virat. Every day, if we just live with this thought, this world is the body of the Lord. Who has seen his body? Every day he shows us. And those who are steeped in this can have still that vision, that story of Guru Nanak when he saw at night the stars glittering in the sky. And he says that in that thali, Gagan Mandal mein, thal birajat. It's like he sees it like a huge thali plate in which countless stars like diya, like those, lamps are lit up. It is the unseen body of the Lord on whom the necklace of stars has been woven. Which culture could ever imagine this vision? To look at the stars and see in them the necklace woven for the unseen deity. So, if we look at another one of the Upanishads, it describes Brahman as fourfold, and this outward is the outer body. This too is Brahman, Virat. So, this is the body of Brahman, if we want to put it like that. And therefore, every physical object, see, because we lost this truth, every physical object carries its own divinity inside it. That's how the great Upanishad declares, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. We lost all this because of all this confusion that took place, and eventually we turned towards Mayavad, but we'll come to that a little later. So this is the outer body. In every element of creation, there is this stable presence. This stable divine presence, not just somewhere up above in the sky. It is there. So people often ask this. Sometimes they have asked me also that, but they say God's in the sky, God in the sky. I said, who gave you this impression about God in the sky? Okay, fine, He's in the sky. But it is also said He's in the atoms. Now, won't you ask me, where is God in the atoms? Now, it's very simple. If you look at this stupendous dance, this stupendous movement of energy, where is it taking place? These were the thoughts that occupied those who wandered around, all around this world, looking for what is it on which this stupendous dance is taking place. What is that basis on which is woven this wonderful universe? And what did they discover? Ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Tene tak tene bhunjita magrida kasya suddhanam. All this is for the habitation of the Lord. The Lord dwells in all things. And then he says, all things means what? This thing, that thing, it qualifies. Jagatyam jagat, each individual motion within a universal motion. Not only in the galaxies, but also in the atoms of existence. Not only in the atoms, in proton, neutron, everything that is ever spinning, moving. Gati, jagatyam, jagat, that which is moving. Within this movement, there is this stable basis, the unseen stable basis. This is the foundation of the one. And from there, how this universe has come into being. So there it describes the other two layers through which creation moves. And I was just referring to that there was an intermediary link between this stable basis and the outer world, which is lost to all other civilizations, but kept preserved in India. And that link is the gods. You see, people often say, "Arey, तुम्हारे यहाँ बहुत भगवान है." How many gods? 33 crore. Then people crore or koti and this. And no need to go into that. See, why 33 crores? We have a God behind every atom of existence. Countless, infinite. So who are these gods? Gods are nothing else but powers of the one. That one is not just a basis of existence in the sense he is just a witness. He is not just, and he is described as a witness as Suryo Yatha Sarva Lokasya Chakshu, who sees. But sun is not just a witness. His energy is streaming out into this universe. So all these countless aspects, his Shakti. So there are different, many big and small, countless beings he brings out of himself. And it's because he understands, that's the original model even today. Between the big CEO, a bit crude, but I'll come to that, a good company manager, okay, not just any CEO, who is the owner, and the person working at the ground level, there are several managers. So there are several cosmic managers. Gods are the cosmic managers. They are managing different aspects of creation. They are managing the motion of the stars. So we have all these gods who have come as subtle beings. They are not this actual Rahu, Ketu, Neptune and Pluto, but they are subtle beings, subtle energies, which are managing a kind of motion. Surya, Aditya is not just this. He is the outer representation of another subtle truth. So there are gods of the mountains, gods of the rivers. Every river is a goddess to us. Every aspect sea is a living conscious entity. Look how we can connect with creation in such a beautiful way. So we have, when you we hear about reclaiming land, isn't it? Now people have reclaimed lands. Even some people have created artificial islands, and we know what it means to bomb other cities and have the military bases. So in Pondicherry, when Park Guest House was being built, so every time they would try to erect it, the wall, the sea would wash away or the monsoon would come. They didn't know what to do. They went to the mother, and mother said, "Did you pray to the sea? Sea, we have to pray to the sea. You're taking land, you're asking help from the sea. You must connect with the sea." So they connected with the sea, and then, this wonderful place came up. There is another way we can connect with the creation. So gods are not just, again, because we lost that truth, we started, in India, it was not like you have to build a small little temple. Every object was a temple of the Lord. That was the original sense, that there are gods operating within everything, and these gods are conscious powers of the eternal, and through them we can connect with the eternal. So we have many, many aspects here, even till today, which connect us with that great truth. Though, as Indians, unfortunately, we have lost it, because on one side, many of us started believing that these are all superstitions and it's not good to look superstitious. So people believe, but they don't in actual, they appear otherwise. So, for example, recently we had this thing about what Savitri Katha, we have this what Savitri. Recently we had. So people go around the what Vriksh, and then they do the Savitri Katha. So, people laugh at what is this what Vraksh and Savitri and story of immortality. The whole secret is given there. You see, what is the beauty of the Bargat what Vraksh? What Vraksh is an interesting Vraksh. It creates many of its kind out of itself and plants upon earth. Spreads vast, shelters so many kinds of beings, become as vast as that, become so deep rooted that even from your being you can cast roots, create new creations. That's what the divine does, and you have the secret of immortality. So beautifully in a small little story it is symbolized. But we have also lost because we went into that narrative, and there are many, many stories we can come to. But suffice it to say for now that we can form a very conscious relation with this creation. It's not that we have to go and worship the gods. Again, we have this interesting Puja Festival in the eastern parts of India. It is called Chhat Maiya, Chhat Puja. And in Chhat Puja, if you see women, there's a very difficult fast. Huh? Don't try that, only for experts. So they do it very well. But that apart, they go, and whom do they pray? They pray to the sun. So they pick up water, and when they bathe, they offer it to the sun. So again, the same question comes. What is all this offering water to the sun? Don't you know that there is no link between the sun and the water? Of course, now we know that there are very concrete, even scientific links. All this cycle is because quietly, clandestinely, sun is managing to lift up the water and creating this whole cycle. But that apart, it's not about science. It's about there are invisible, unseen links that exist in creation. There is a vast interconnectedness of life. Each of us looks as separate, different. There is a line in Savitri. Each here that seems to be its lonely self are figures of the soul transcendent one. Through anything we can approach the divine. Anything. Because there is an invisible link that connects us. So we have this, and it is narrated in the form of such stories. If you look at the story of Kedarnath, you have those Panch Tirath, Panch Kedar, isn't it? It's called Panch Kedar. So you have the story of Bhima chasing Shiva as a bull because Shiva is annoyed. Why you people killed the Kauravas? So he won't accept their prakshit. So he runs away from them. And Pandavas are chasing him, and they finally catch him in the Deva Bhumi. That's why it's called Deva Bhumi. And he assumes the form of a bull. And if you look at the story, it sounds very strange. Now, then Bhima straddles around two hills, and he finds the bull and pounces and holds the bull. But the bull vanishes in the ground, but a portion of the bull remains. And then it keeps appearing at different places because Bhima is Bhima, he's not going to let go. And finally, a portion comes in Kedar. Now, outwardly, if you look at it, it looks like a fantastic, just realm of the fantastic. But you look at these mountain peaks, all of them connected to Shiva in one single story. It's a way of narrating to an early stage of, and now we have to consciously reconnect. It's true that there was a stage of mankind where we had a direct connection with creation, with nature, and the forces operating behind. Sri Aurobindo calls it the typal age. But then we lost that age progressively. So where did India's decline start? In the Vedic age, we see this kind of direct connection with the divine. And we'll have occasion to go into details. And if there are questions, it'll be even more wonderful. It's a very vast, we are standing before a very, very vast landscape. So, landscape, rather soulscape. So, there was an age when there was this connection with the truth of creation in every civilization, actually. Mystic tendencies we see. But they were lost. But in India, they were preserved, guarded, and developed. So we see something very beautiful on one side through countless legends, stories, myths. A deep, profound truth was preserved. On the other side, there were people who picked up the essence of that, went on to realize and experience. Because they did have that faith that there is some truth in it. Let me discover. They didn't take a story and start exploring it. But they started discovering, and every time they discovered, they gave it through their own unique formula. So though at the root of everything there is one stable basis, every religion says that. So what is great about India? It says, Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. There is one, but the wise call him by different names. If you combine these two, it changes the whole perspective. Everybody says there is one God. Where is the quarrel? The kolavari happens when you say, quarrel happens when you say that, yes, there is only one God, but that's my God, exclusively my God. So, very simple, just requires that little understanding. There is one God and the wise call him by different names. So when we look at it, such multiplicity of approaches, Catholicity of approaches, and again, each approach, the connection can be from anywhere we can establish because the bonds are there. In India, the bonds have been preserved. Those religions which became, monotheistic is a way of saying, I don't want to get into semantics, but they didn't believe in any of the gods. They did away with gods. There were religions which said, Bhut Parasti, don't worship the gods. Where is the Bhut formed? They didn't understand that Bhuts are not formed outside, Bhut is formed inside. Every concept is a form. The form maker is the mind of man. And there is a truth that you have to go beyond forms to that extent. There is a truth behind removing all the concepts and percepts which come between us and the one. But there is an equally valid truth that each concept and percept is like a little stair that climbs to the one or expresses the one. And this is the truth that India preserved. So you have all these chains, rungs. When we look at this vast, wonderful soulscape called India, it looks like, Sri Aurobindo has used the word, like a vast, mighty mansion where there are many stairs, there are many beautiful rooms. Some places the place is chipped off, the paint has fallen. Somewhere the bricks are there, but one can look at it that there's a mighty, mighty superstructure. And yet, in this great superstructure, which is crumbling at places and still beautiful at places, Still, there is service offered to the unseen Lord. This is something which is still kept here. Service is offered to the unseen Lord. So, what is needed is the key. You see stairways and you wonder, what is this? Who made? Where are these stairs going? Oh, there is a room out there. Where is this room? Now of course we have very nice this campsite. I'm sure people remember when earlier. So we didn't know. At least I used to get confused. If I go this way, I'll reach my room, or if I go that way. And you ended up on the stair that, okay, logically you should go, but then you realize that no, it doesn't work out. So come back and you take that. Then when you discover your room, it's like, aha, this is so wonderful. I tell you, you are missing that momentous discoveries. Now it is so easy and simple. That's your room, and well, it's very well organized, I must say. But where is that key? There is a key which is missing. So what used to happen, when I used to miss my room, so I would go up and I won't find my room. Then I would see that, okay, Relic's room is here. Okay, I'll go there at least, do pranam since I've come here. So you see, this key which was missing for India, that key Sri Aurobindo gives us. And that key is with all of us. And that key is within the soul. When Mother was asked that, how can I serve India? So Mother gave a very fascinating reply. She said, find your soul. First step. Find your soul. Let your soul get interested in India. Discover the soul of India and unite with it. A program for a lifetime. Find the soul. But then, at some point we have to start. After all, how long can we be satisfied, with surface things? Find your soul. Let your soul get interested in India. Discover the soul of India. Unite with it. That is the best way to serve it. Why? Because we discover that key that India holds. And it is a magic key. Once that key is there, it not only opens one door where you see the soul of India, she has the key to all the doors that we can ever imagine. So this Brahman, this stable basis, how it is described? The Shruti says, Ken Upanishad, it says, if you know it, you know everything else. Yasmin vigyate vigyati sarvam. There is this fascinating story with which probably we can stop for today. So that story is that Narad has mastered 64 Vidyas. I don't know how many and which all universities he went. We didn't need to go to any university. Takshila and Nalanda were there, and even before. So everybody came here, learned the 64 Vidyas, which includes everything. Arts and sciences and music and poetry and painting and dance and cricket and football and God knows everything. So he learned, but he felt something is still incomplete. Something I'm missing. So he is roaming around in that state. You see, this story is so fascinating. Having learned everything, when you feel something is missing, Sri Ramakrishna said there is hope for two people. One who is very simple and has no such arrogance that I know it. And the second who having learnt everything. So first he calls, there is hope for two. One is the unlettered peasant. He doesn't know anything. So he has everything to learn. The other who having read and known everything, yet feels that there is something more, it is incomplete. For the rest, the Pandit, and you already know if you go before God and say, but this, that, and he'll say, okay, you know a lot. So Narad has reached their state where having learnt everything, of course that's a much higher state, no doubt about it. As the mother says, if having developed your intellect, then you go into faith, it is something tremendous, you become a powerful instrument. So Narad is roaming around and Sanat Kumar finds him and says, hey Narad, where are you going? He says, I don't know, I am destined to wander. Where are you wandering? In search of something? Yes, I am searching something, but I don't know what I am searching. That's the problem. Everything that is possible, I have learnt. I have been to the best of universities. But still I am searching. My search is not ended. He says, excellent. You are the right material. So then he says, right mental is okay, but what is it I'm missing? He says, you have learned so many vidyas. Have you learned that, having known which all can be known? Narad goes through, flashes in his mind, there is no such subject taught in my school. College level degree, nobody ever signed up for Brahma Vidya. Still they don't offer, no? Brahma Vidya. Thank God they don't offer it in the uni. Otherwise they'll make a degree also out of that. Masters in Brahma Vidya. Diploma. PhD in Brahma Vidya. Only he will become a Brahmavadin who has mastered, who has got a degree. See? It's not a joke. In Rumtek Monastery, Gangtok, I saw these nice little children, 13, 14, who are nice dress they were wearing like a monk. So I just asked them, so what are you learning? They teach us meditation, this, that. So, okay, so what are you planning to do? I want to do an advanced course in meditation. Sounds very impressive. So I said, that's fantastic. So what will you do after that? He said, no, we need to learn because only those who learned advanced meditation techniques can go to US and they can become priests there. You have those monasteries everywhere, so you need to, this is direct I'm telling you, I asked him. So it's not about, this is a course which is not offered by any university, cannot be offered by any university. So what was the method that India had adopted during those times? Brahma Vidya. So he says, I'll teach you. So we didn't have temples, we didn't have those places. What we had were ashrams. There were masters and there were disciples. And the disciples went to the ashrams seeking with a seeker's heart. They did not go to ashram that, okay, now I am 60. I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. When Sri Aurobindo was asked about ashram, why you have used this word ashram, he said, I have no other better word for want of better word. I am using the word ashram, but it has different meaning than what is normally used. So it comes from shram, labor, but labor of a different kind. Shram. So Indians engaged in labor of a different kind. While people were cutting stones and building huge buildings, we were cutting blocks from within a body to find a passage from matter's body to the soul. This was another kind of labor, tremendous labor. Perhaps easier to move the mountains than to really concentrate and shift that base of matter which stands like an iron door. It just won't let in. That's why when people start meditating, first thing they experience is there's like a night. They say it's all dark, and I suddenly, if I open my eyes, at least I can think clearly. All the thoughts are coming. A whole inner world opens. But they persisted. What beautiful descriptions they have left as trails for us. As an arrow shot in its target, so must our concentration be upon Brahman. Now you see the analogy? As an arrow shot in the target. What happens when an arrow is shot in the target? Its head is stuck in the target and its tail quivers for a while. Before being fixed in the target, it becomes quiet. So nature and soul are one. But when that point in us, maybe the mind, the heart, the life part, anything, even the physical body, something in us should be deeply rooted in that with the fire of seeking. And then slowly you will see that nature tends to quiver for quite some time, then it will become quiet. They gave us the secret in so many ways as an arrow shot in the target. It's a wonderful image to contemplate upon. So they discovered this inward path, grappling with unseen forces. We don't know these forces. Suddenly we speak something without realizing what we are speaking and bear the consequences. Somebody, even to use the word abuse is so abusive. But people use, ill will they throw. So much damage we do. We don't realize, we just, I felt angry so I spoke. Or the other way around. All kinds of things. What is it that makes us speak when we speak? So they contemplated on that. that which the speech cannot reach, but that by which the speech itself is driven. What is behind speech? What is behind thought? What is behind feelings? What is behind will and impulse and action? They trace the entire network and technology of creation, the warp and woof, and gave it to us. And while the world was busy exploring everything, and India had to go through its own phase of decline, because there was a time when we also cut off all these mediating links, tried to do that, and just kept that one who has to do with nothing else. But somewhere within the soul of India, heart of India, it was preserved. And therefore, based on that, we are beginning to once again rebuild not just India, but the world. We close where we began. India is needed for the world. We are going through a period of time when every nation is searching for its soul. People mistakenly call it that right wing expansion. Forget right and left wing and middle wing and all this. But every nation is, if you see right from Japan, right up to Americas, there is this manthan going on, and everybody is wondering, who are we? And it is taking forms outside. That's just an outside form. But it's looking for, who are we as a nation, as a civilization? Who are we as a culture? And in that discovery, India has to play a key role. Sri Aurobindo cautioned India that if it goes the way of the West, or of course the Chinese way, then very little will be left not only for India, but for the world. It may give us tremendous material success, but it will be at the expense of the soul. So when we deliberate upon what India is, we must know it is for the love of the world that one should do it, because India has that key, and that key, we are the inheritors of the key by default. And this default, we must turn it into something real and living. We are like those who have inherited a great treasure, but we don't know what is it, like treasure hunt. What is its secret meaning? We have a page here, we have a page there, we are trying to reword that document, but unfortunately, to reword the document, we make a mistake. We go to the Western critics and say, can you reword it for us? This too India or Indians did at a point of time. Till Sri Aurobindo had to bring out that no, this is not the secret of the Vedas. They have misunderstood it. This is the secret of the Vedas. Even a man like, people speak about Max Muller. He could not understand. That's a fact, people should speak. Many verses he just couldn't understand. So he says in parts it is very nice, but there are parts which seem like there was a mixture, some primitive people. That's how it came down. But Sri Aurobindo for the first time gives a secret which is consistently. This is the Veda that we have to recover, of which Indian culture is what we see is the fruits, beautiful fruits and flowers, not knowing where that source is. So over the next few days, we will explore that.